a stretch in between the last video, but today I've been tasked with finding out what's wrong with this Astra J VXR. I mean, don't get me wrong, Vauxhalls are not really my bag, but whose bag it is my friend Colin here. Come on in, Carl, don't be scared.
Hello, you right here?
This is Colin from CNS Auto Care, and he is a Vauxhall specialist. We don't know anything about this car apart from the fact it's apparently down on cylinder 1. What that means, who knows? But between me and this guy, we will find out, because no one else has managed to figure it out. But I guarantee that we will figure it out. Let's go. Right then, guys, we've popped the hood. And in first inspection is airbox hose is off, the induction pipe. We have bolts, no idea where they come from yet. Spark plugs. There's no coolant in the system. And we have coil packs removed. So, all we know is it was driving one day, then all of a sudden it stopped working. It's been to multiple garages apparently, and they haven't managed to figure it out, but that's what it's here for, because we figure shit out. It's just the mantra we've got, we figure shit out. So, first of all, Carl, A20 NFT.
A20 NFT, Astra J VXR variant of the engine, originally produced in the Chevy Cobalt over in America. They've made multiple different variants, but it's all in essence the same engine. It's been in the Insignia SRI turbo as well. And the origination of the actual engine prior to becoming variable valve injection and direct injection was the bare bones of the block is a old Vectra B Saab designed engine of a Z22 SE engine, which over the years has just took many different adaptations to include direct injection, followed by variable valve timing, and gone from multiple stages of supercharged to turbocharged as well. This is one of the latest designs of the engine as far as I'm aware. I've not come across anything that's newer variant to this engine. They seem to have stopped producing the VXR range now with Peugeot taking over. So, but in America there may be a newer generation of this engine. Looking at it, obviously somebody's already had a go at trying to work out what the issues are. We don't know what's been done to this particular vehicle, so we don't know if they've purposely drained the coolant or if that's a telltale sign that it could have had an air gasket issue that we're unaware of. Again, this is why it's here, this is what we now got to find out. We've been told that it's got cylinder 1 low compression, and the compression is within the capabilities of the cylinders 2, 3 and 4. So now we need to first of all start off with the diagnostic side to see if we've got any fault codes whatsoever in the diagnostic system.
And that is why he's here, guys. Winning! Right, we've now entered the cockpit and we're about to do some diagnostics.
Firstly, the system we're using is the Snap-on Solus Legend system. Just my personal choice of diagnostic system. There's many other great systems out in the market, like the Autel system, the Launch system. They all seem to do very much similar. Certain diagnostic setups seem to be a little bit better in maybe your Japanese market, your European market, but this for the UK market seems a reasonably priced all-round system for what vehicles that I actually diagnose. So we put some battery support onto the battery just whilst we run the diagnostics test. Let's get the ignition on, make sure we've got lights. Yes, we have lights. So we're just now going to go through the systems, find the Opel Vauxhall. With most systems, it'll give you a choice of Opel Vauxhall when it becomes a Vauxhall, because it is German Opel Vauxhall in the UK market. First, we're going to go into the diagnostic system now, and let's have a quick code scan. And surprisingly enough, 0 fault codes in the system. It's obviously been to another garage, so they've obviously cleared any fault codes that are in the system, and without it being able to run again or us turning it over, it's obviously not going to give us any codes. But at the moment we've been told it turns over but low on compression. However, until I'm happy that I can turn it over quite freely by hand, I won't be actually turning it over to try and run any live data. So the next job for us will be get the vehicle jacked up, get the wheel off, and let's give it a manual turnover by hand, just to make sure we're not clipping any valves or anything before we try and actually start it and get some live data off it.
Colin's running the show because he knows more about these cars than I do. It's only right that he explains what he's doing, and I'll be his gopher for the day and run around, and I'll be director and stuff. So yeah, right then, over to you, Carl. Right. You're the boss.
Thank you, Carl. Right, basically what we need to do the next stage is we need to strip out the internal arch liner. So I'll just explain. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 T20 screws. So we've got the socket with the T20 fitment on it, and then we have 3 push bit fitments as well, which we're going to have to pop out. We're just going to use, naturally you would normally use the trim pulling tool, but these clips themselves are very tight, so I'm going to use a flat edge blade just to get them to start moving, and I should be able to get them out with my fingernails. So I'm just going to turn away slightly from the camera whilst I strip this down, and then we'll come back to you as soon as we're at the next stage. There's our clips, the arch line is now out. Just put these down a second. Now we're going to go on to the bottom crank pulley. On this particular engine, it's a 21mm socket, so we're using a 1/2 inch 21mm socket on a ratchet. We're going to turn the engine over multiple times in the clockwise direction, just to ensure that we're not actually trapping anywhere. I would say 3 to 4 turns is probably more than enough to complete a full cycle of this particular engine. So, unfortunately, with the spark plugs being taken out, we're not going to quite feel the compression strokes, but it does make it easier for us to turn it over, just to make sure it's not fouling. As you can see, that's multiple turns and it's not trapped and it's not stopped me from being able to turn the engine over. So that would tell me that nothing's actually clipping inside the engine. Now we can go back to the inside. Welcome back, guys. We're now back in the vehicle after establishing that we're not going to cause any more damage by turning the vehicle over by key. We're now going to attempt to turn it over by the key, check a few data parameters, ensuring we've got RPM signal, which would be dictated from the crank position sensor, and just to see if we can get it, now it's turning over, to fire up any actual fault codes, which we'll come back to scan in a minute. So we'll just turn the ignition back on and get the data stream going. So obviously we're looking, start off with at the RPM signal. As we turn it over, the RPM signal could change, which we're getting 0 on the RPM signal at all. So put in a few more parts on the actual live data. See what else we've got. Fuel control system is open, so we're getting fuel. We're getting pretty much no data from anything, unfortunately, at the moment. It's voltage for the oxygen sensors is down at 0. And we've got ignition timing. It's not giving a great deal for us. So we'll turn it over a few times and then we'll come back to the actual scan and rescan it and just see if anything else pops up for us. So we've turned the engine over multiple times now by hand. We've turned it over a few times by the key. We're getting 0 fault codes back in the system, so we at least know that when it's been at the other garages they haven't deleted the actual fault codes so that we can't find them to have a look at them. So now we need to go back to the more mechanical side of the vehicle and we're going to start to look towards the timing side of the vehicle to start off with, before going down the line of stripping down the cylinder head to check for further damage to the actual engine. So we'll go back to the front now. We'll see you shortly.
Right, so what's happening now is we're going to perform a compression test and find out what numbers he's actually throwing. So while Colin's stripping the plugs out, well, putting the plugs back in first because they're already out, putting them in so we can actually find out what's going on. I'll be turning over and Colin will be reading the numbers. Winning! Say when.
Okay, so we're on cylinder 1 to start off with. Go, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Right. We're definitely down on this cylinder. We are at less than 20 psi of pressure on cylinder 1. So we're now going to put the plug back in cylinder 1 and we're going to work our way across cylinder 2, followed by cylinder 3, cylinder 4. Here we go on cylinder 2. Start in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Right, 150 psi on cylinder 2. Still a bit low, you'd be wanting to see around about 160s on this particular engine. So even cylinder 2 is slightly a bit low. Can we just have another few seconds, just crank please, Carl?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Yep. Thank you, yes. Even with the extra crank, it's not exceeding 150. Okay, so now we're set up on cylinder 3. So far we've had a 20, we've had a 150. Let's see where we're at on cylinder 3. Okay, start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, another 150 reading. So we've got a 20, 150, 150. Okay, so here we are on cylinder 4. We're just going to run this last check. Carl, can you start in 3, 2, 1, please? Right, okay, and another 150 on the test. So, there we have it. 20, 150, 150. Okay, so we've run the diagnostics on the vehicle, we've manually turned it over, we've run a compression test on it to find that we have the following readings. Cylinder 1, 20, cylinder 2, 150, cylinder 3, 150, and cylinder 4, 150, all worked out in PSI. The next stage for us, which will be speeding up shortly, will be take the rocker cover off it, lock the timing tools into place, see what the timing is actually like before we go to actually fully remove the cylinder head to see what damage has been caused internally to the engine.
Right, so that's all the cam cover bolts and everything stripped out. Hardest one was a 10mm at the back, which goes to a breather, which goes to the cam cover off the back of the turbo. I'm not gonna lie, that was crap to do. Right fiddly little bloody thing. But yeah, that's off now. So, ready to get the timing tools on and see what she's gonna try and tell us. Hopefully it's good news. Right then, so what we found is the timing chain's a bit slack, but on a compression stroke.
Yeah, if it's on a compression stroke, we're not going to be too worried about that right now. What we're going to do is we're going to turn the engine over slightly and see if it pulls a little bit of slackness out of it. It doesn't seem nothing major right now. So if you can just assist by just turning it over, Carl, slightly.
Ready?
Yes. Right, okay.
Anything?
Yeah, it's tightened up a tiny bit. It's still got a little bit of slack there, but if it was completely rigid, it'd have no give to it.
Fingers.
Right, okay.
Try that.
Right, yep, there we go. See, it's took a bit more tension out of it now. So what we're going to do is, here we have the Nielsen VVI timing locking tool. Just put it up there for a second. Obviously, We have the upper cam bar, which we're going to attempt in a second just to lock off the cams, just to ensure as first stage that the cams are both lining up. Before we go down the bottom end to actually check the bottom timing marks. Right. Okay, so in the camshafts on these engines, they've actually got the notches cut out, ready for the back of the actual timing tool. When we put it down, as we turn the engine over slightly, we should be able to lock this tool into both camshafts together.
Say when.
Turn it over if you can, please, Carl. Might need multiple turns. Looking at the angles of your cutouts, I would say it's going to come across a bit more. Keep going if we can. And slightly more if we can. Right. Okay, so looking at that, the tool does not want to go into it. We are not far enough round on the exhaust camshaft, and we've gone too far around on the intake camshaft, which means that one of the camshafts is definitely out of line. Okay, so we've established now that the timing is definitely out of line. We've managed to get one of the actual markers in up the top. The intake camshaft is around about 2 to 3 teeth off of line from actually being able to go in. We have tried to turn it over quite a few times because on this particular vehicle, you can just about see it here. There's three gold links on the actual chain setup, and on the cam sprockets themselves there are, which is very hard to see with the timing tool in place, but I'll just pull it out of line if I can. Is we can just show them down there, Carl, if you can. There is a little diamond cut out. So you don't necessarily need the tool to do the timing on these particular engines. However, it does help massively to have the timing tool itself. As a rule, you would line up the gold links with the 2 diamonds in the top on the intake, on the intake and the exhaust pulley, and on your crank pulley there's a very minute dot which also lines up with a golden link. And once you've got all the diamonds with the gold links and the dot lined up and all the tensions in place and all the slack taken out the right areas of the chain, that would be at TDC timing.
So, Colin, where are we at with this then?
Okay, so we've obviously checked the diagnostic side of it. We've run a compression test on it. We're very aware that it is down real bad on cylinder 1 on compression, and maybe slightly on 2, 3 and 4 as well. It should be a little bit higher. We've done a rocker cover strip off. We've established that the actual cam sprockets, intake and exhaust, are both out of line. So we know the timing's definitely not in line. However, I would say from previous experience, we could get it running, which is probably the next stage, is putting the timing back in line. The compression on 2, 3 and 4 are up high enough to get it. We'll probably find it may smoke if it's got valve damage on 1, 2, 3, obviously on any of the cylinders whatsoever, should I say. But at 20 psi, it's not like that. It's got a big hole in the piston and it's got 0 compression. It could be just the fact that it is holding intake and exhaust valves open together when coming up on the stroke for what not reason. But as we all know, customers, they always have a limit on what they want to spend on something that's a non-runner, and with it going to other garages as well, they've obviously already spent money on this vehicle. So we've liaised with the customer in between the clips, and they've agreed for us to go ahead and try and put the engine back in time and see if we can at least get a fire out of the engine. If it does fire up,
Not an actual fire, eh?
Pardon?
Not an actual fire.
No, not an actual fire. Carl.
Not an actual fire.
I mean, for the compression fire, and then hopefully, if we can at least get the engine to try and start, it'll be able to give us a bit more, a better reasoning. If it's blowing smoke out, we obviously know there's something wrong, either piston ring damage, valve damage, or even a cracked piston, before the customer decides whether they want to go down the road of taking the cylinder head completely off and having everything fully inspected.
And rebuilt.
And rebuilt, yes. We can sort the rebuild. We've done a few of these now. So, providing we give the customer the right answers, we shall be getting this car running at some stage.
So there you have it, guys. Astra J VXR, non-runner. I think we're starting to break the back of what could be wrong with it. Timing's definitely out. We know that the multitude of garages that she's been to before haven't even gone as far as taking the rocker cover off, but took all the easy stuff off. Drained the coolant, took the coil packs and stuff out. And yeah, next up, we'll be resetting the timing.
Yeah, we'll reset the timing. Obviously, remove the camshafts just to establish that the valves seem to be lifting fully, with no pressure from the camshafts on them. And then hopefully we'll get it running, even if not at the greatest capacity, but running is one stage further for us to be able to diagnose it now.
Yeah, so the idea to get it running, then perhaps it'll throw some more codes at us, and she'll be screaming to tell us what's actually wrong with her. But timing being out, it's a biggie. We don't think there's too much gone on in there. We don't really think there's any burnt valves and stuff. So the first port of call is to do the cheapest possible fix. Retime. If she runs and fires, it's something that she didn't do before we ended up in our hands anyway. So from me and Colin, we appreciate the watch. If you like what we're doing, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And from me and Colin, we're out. Adios.